Welcome to my channel where we explore the dark and twisted world of horror stories. Whether you're a fan of classic tales or new and innovative horror, you'll find something to enjoy here. So sit back, relax, and let's get scared together. 6 of us had made plans to travel after the semester break, venturing into distant provinces. But our journey took a dark turn when we stumbled upon a gruesome scene, an accident that had left a passenger bus in ruins, perched precariously on the edge of a ravine. The aftermath was chilling, with casualties strewn across the site, some injured and others lifeless. We couldn't simply pass by. It was our moral duty to lend a hand. We rushed to aid the wounded, offering solace to those who had lost their lives. Among the deceased, there was one sight that haunted my soul, a pregnant woman, her abdomen bearing the brutal impact of a fatal blow. Her life had been cut short, her body contorted in agony. Grief and despair washed over me as we carefully transported the bodies, arranging them in a somber row. While I was engrossed in this grim task, my attention momentarily wavered, and I cast an inadvertent glance toward Mac, one of my companions. What I witnessed was beyond belief, an act so shocking it left us all stunned. Mac, known for his penchant for pranks, had reached into the lifeless pregnant woman's body, extracting the tiny life within. He held it aloft, proclaiming, "Look, friends, this tiny soul might be overlooked and abandoned." The officers and I were horrified, for none had anticipated such a macabre act from Mac. In the ensuing silence, the officer addressed Mac sternly, urging him to place the infant's remains back where they belonged and beseech forgiveness for the desecrated corpse. As the unsettling incident with Mac and the baby's corpse lingered in our minds, we continued our journey, both haunted and perplexed by his actions. Nightfall arrived, casting an eerie shadow over our destination. With tents set up and food preparations underway, we gathered for a few drinks, seeking solace and camaraderie before retiring for the night. The forest rustled with the sounds of nature, and amidst them, a peculiar noise, an infant's cry, piercing the stillness. I dismissed it, attributing the disturbance to a nearby wild cat. After all, a feline's cry often resembled a baby's wail. My friends shared my sentiment, urging us to disregard it. We resumed our drinking, attempting to drown the disconcerting noise with laughter. Eventually, we retired to our respective tents, hoping for a peaceful night's rest. But as the midnight hour approached, I awoke, my senses heightened by an ominous sensation. The forest seemed to come alive with the eerie sound of creaking wood as if unseen footsteps drew near. Stranger still, the noise intensified around Mac's tent, which stood as an island of darkness in the moonlit night. I assumed Mac had risen for some reason, calling out, "Mac, haven't you turned in yet?" My words hung in the air, met only with silence. Perplexed, I pondered if Mac's excessive eating had kept him awake. Yet, the footsteps persisted, a relentless nocturnal presence, pacing ceaselessly around Mac's tent. The unsettling feeling in my gut deepened, and I couldn't shake the notion that something inexplicable was unfolding in the darkness. The next morning, we resumed our exploration of various tourist attractions, attempting to put the bizarre events of the previous night behind us. As night fell on the second day of our trip, we gathered for a meal and retired to our tents, exhaustion weighing heavily on our eyelids. The digital clock on my wrist blinked at 2 a.m. when an eerie sound sliced through the darkness, a haunting, fearful moan emanating from Mac's tent. I called out frantically, "Mac, what's happening?" My voice echoed unanswered, and my repeated inquiries met with a chilling silence, the moans only growing louder. Driven by unease, I leaped from my bed and grabbed a flashlight, determined to unravel the mystery. Unzipping Mac's tent, I directed the beam of light inside, revealing a figure curled up in a sleeping bag, trembling with inexplicable dread. My hand landed gently on their leg as I asked, "Is something wrong, Mac?" Silence engulfed us, save for the eerie moans that persisted. Assuming Mac had merely had a troubled dream, I decided to return to my tent, hoping for a peaceful remainder of the night. Just as I turned away, Mac's voice startled me. He was behind me, demanding to know why I was in his tent. I hastily denied my presence, but pointed out the incessant moans from within. Mac, puzzled and alarmed, questioned how he could have left his tent to relieve himself while leaving behind those anguished cries. We engaged in a heated exchange, but when we finally investigated further, all we found inside was an empty sleeping bag. I stammered that there had been someone else there, but with a dismissive wave, Mac muttered, "No worries, it's all fine." I retreated to my tent, the sense of dread lingering like a ghostly specter in the night. The following day, I confided in another friend from our group about the unsettling events of the previous night. To my astonishment, my friend confirmed hearing the nightmarish screams, but admitted being too terrified to investigate until Mac and I discussed it. The peculiar story was taking a bizarre turn, but our options were limited. We had already reserved a boat for our return journey, and it was scheduled to arrive the next day. I decided to stay, convincing myself that daylight would dispel these disconcerting shadows. Reluctantly, the rest of us ventured out on our planned trip, leaving Mac behind. He claimed exhaustion and a need to rest in the tent. We returned around 5 p.m., only to find Mac's demeanor had shifted from his usual jovial self to a disquieting silence. We shared a meal and sat together, as was our custom, with Mac seated among us. As time passed, Mac began trembling uncontrollably, ultimately losing consciousness. Alarmed, we hurried to his side, carried him to his tent, and ensured he was resting. We gathered to discuss the enigma that had gripped Mac. It became increasingly apparent that something was amiss, and we speculated about what could be causing this dramatic change. As we deliberated, a haunting female voice suddenly emanated from Mac's tent, uttering chilling words, "You took my child away from me. I will take you away from your parents." Panic seized us, and we sprinted to Mac's tent, dreading what we might find. To our immense relief, Mac remained unharmed. However, the eerie events had taken a toll on our nerves, and we huddled together in a circle, keeping a vigilant watch throughout the long, unsettling night. The next morning, we anxiously awaited the arrival of the boat, eager to leave behind the uncanny events that had plagued our trip. However, Mac's behavior had taken a peculiar turn. He seemed engrossed in some unseen amusement, giggling to himself, his demeanor unnerving us all. This unsettling episode persisted until the boat finally arrived to transport us to the other side. It was 6 p.m. when we departed, and I made a swift decision to return home immediately, fearing that another day in Mac's company would be unbearable. Our journey took us to the very site of the earlier accident, shrouded in an eerie loneliness and obscured by a dense, impenetrable fog. I maneuvered the vehicle with utmost caution, navigating the treacherous path with painstaking care. As we ventured deeper into the fog, I noticed one of my friends, seated in the back of the pickup truck, furiously pounding on the window and emitting incoherent shouts and screams. The cacophonous disturbance filled the air for a brief, harrowing moment before abruptly ceasing. Once we successfully navigated through the thick fog, I sped toward a house along the road that emanated a welcoming light. I hoped to find shelter and inquire about the condition of our friends in the back of the pickup truck. We parked at the house, where nearby villagers gathered in astonishment, perplexed by our sudden and perplexing arrival. It was evident that something dire had occurred, and I hastily called upon the locals to assist our unconscious friend. The villagers from the area rushed to attend to my unconscious friend. After some time, he came to and began recounting a chilling tale. As we drove through the thick mist, he claimed to have seen the young lady whose body we had helped recover from the accident. She appeared hauntingly close, floating in the back of the vehicle. He had been so terrified that he shattered the window in a desperate attempt to urge her to drive faster, only to lose consciousness soon after. Perplexed and shaken by this revelation, the villagers urged us to attend an event and pay our respects, insisting on the necessity of asking for forgiveness. Bewildered, I inquired about the nature of the event and whom we were meant to honor. It soon became apparent that the house we had stumbled upon was hosting a funeral, one for a young pregnant woman who had tragically lost her life in a car accident that had sent her vehicle plummeting off a cliff. The five of us exchanged stunned glances, realizing the uncanny coincidence that had brought us to this very place. Without hesitation, we entered the house to pay our respects and seek forgiveness from the deceased young woman. Mac, still unconscious in the car, remained under the watchful care of the villagers. As I knelt to pay my respects and request forgiveness for the deceased, I glanced up and was met with a sight that would forever haunt my memory. A young woman stood before me, clad in a blood-stained maternity gown, her presence a chilling reminder of the pregnant woman from the accident, the one whose contorted form I would never forget. Shocked and overwhelmed, I collapsed to the ground, the world around me fading into a nightmare I could neither comprehend nor escape. Following the completion of the funeral rites, we gathered to receive holy water from the monks as a final gesture of respect for the departed. As each of us received the sacred liquid, the monks suddenly inquired about our missing friend. Concerned, we hurried to the back of the pickup truck, where we found Max still unconscious. The monk offered cryptic words, advising that if Mac were to awaken, he should accumulate merit and perform good deeds for his next life. With this enigmatic message, the monk departed, leaving us bewildered and uncertain of his true intent. We eventually parted ways, returning to our respective homes, with the upcoming university semester looming on the horizon. However, 1 week before classes were set to begin, I received a heart-wrenching call from Mac's father, bearing devastating news. Mac had met an untimely end, caught in the crossfire of a tragic shooting incident. The announcement sent shivers down my spine, recalling the haunting moans and eerie experiences from our ill-fated journey. The voice in the tent that had ominously declared, "You took my child away from me. I will take you away from your parents," echoed in my ears, leaving me with a chilling sense that the supernatural forces we had encountered were far from done with us. Thank you, awesome audience, for tuning in. Your support and enthusiasm mean the world to us. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. Until next time, keep spreading positivity and embracing creativity. Stay amazing, and we'll see you soon.